Welcome back, everyone. It's great to have you all back in day 4, last day of the Midwest Regional Facilitators Workshop. Before we get started today, we'd like to just open the floor to you all and ask for any reflections you may have, or any buzzing questions or thoughts that may be on your mind. So I'll give you the next minute to for just some space to share those thoughts, and then we'll move forward with the day. Feel free to unmute yourself or just share through the chat.
Hi, this is Giselle from Iowa. I am feeling grateful for all of the resources. I'm feeling like I have access to so much information that's really building my capacity and confidence, and also overwhelmed, but it feels good to have all the resources where I can fully call myself an expert in this stuff. So thank you for all the hard work that it took to pull it together.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And that's definitely what we're trying to achieve here. And just know that we are available to you after this workshop for any kind of assistance or thought partnership. So thanks for sharing. All right, not seeing anything else right now. So gonna go ahead and continue on with the day. So today is going to be all about bringing together all the pieces we've been talking about over the last 3 days. We're going to start with a virtual site visit to learn more from a producer about their farm and school sales. We're going to dig into the planning and outreach tools. We are going to get a lot of time with our teams today. So yeah, today is all about thinking about planning, outreach, and the trainer action plan. So on that note, we will be handing it over shortly to Brooke Gammy of Quarry Hill Orchards. The Regional Facilitator Workshop and local producer trainings have been designed to provide experiential education and peer learning opportunities through site visits to local farms. For each Regional Facilitator Workshop, we aim to highlight a farm within the region selling to schools as both an opportunity for farms to share about their work with schools, as well as a model for what site visits can look like at your local producer trainings. Today we have Brooke Gammy, who will be taking us on a virtual tour of Quarry Hill Farms based in Berlin Heights, Ohio. Within this segment, we will share about a 10-minute video allowing you to learn more about Quarry Hill Orchards and their involvement in the Great Apple Crunch, as well as Farm to School. So on that note, I will pass it over to Brooke to introduce herself.
Hey everybody, is everybody awake out there? I know it's like the after lunch snoozeville time, but I'm hoping to bring some energy to the crowd. Thank you for inviting me. I feel, gosh, I hope I have something to offer all of you. I know there's lots of different folks here from different states regionally, right? We're all kind of in the Midwest, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Michigan, Ohio-ish, okay? And you're all just learning how to bring some resources to conduct some producer training back home, right? Okay, so I'm trying to just make sure I have that top of mind as I'm talking to you all. As Thomas mentioned, my name is Brooke Gammy. I am a 3rd generation farmer, manager, sales person, family member. I have lots of different ways you could describe me at my husband's farm that he grew up on. I'm from the city and I am from Arizona. I did not grow up in the Midwest. And I did not grow up around agriculture. So like you, if you are new to the farming conversation, so was I. And I think that lens can be good and bad. I mean, good, we have a very fresh look at it. But there's also a lot to learn, and going through the seasons of each year through agriculture really is something we don't understand when we first step into that space. This is our farm, Quarry Hill Orchards. And we are located right on the shores of Lake Erie at the very top of the state of Ohio, right in the middle of the state at the very top. Our farm is like 2 miles as the crow flies from the shores of Lake Erie. So we have a unique kind of the rolling hills of Berlin Heights. So fruit trees like to be well draining. So our ground here is a rocky hillside-ish where we grow. Gosh, we've got over 150 acres of production in the ground currently, the majority of which returns over 38 different varieties of apples, several varieties, early peaches, late peaches. We have a really big cherry crop. Our cherries are the first fruits mid-June. We also have some raspberries, an assortment of pears, plums, and then the pick your own experience for fresh cut flowers, pumpkins, specialty gourds. And we're a fully integrated farm, which means on site, we are in charge of not only growing our agricultural product, but we're also in charge of harvesting it and managing the pack house. So the fruit goes through our packing house where it's graded and sorted and culled, and the schools want grade Bs, they go over here, but the fancy grocery store wants number ones over here. And we sort and grade and manage our inventory. And then we put it into our, these boxes right here. This is a, who knows what, pop quiz. What size volume is this? Anybody know? It's a bushel, 1 bushel of apples, or 1 case. Inside you will find roughly 40 pounds of fruit. If you walk into a school kitchen, you're gonna see boxes like that probably say Washington apples all over them. If you are in Northeast Ohio, you might find some of our boxes. Anyway, we put all of our product into boxes, we label them, and then we also have a team dedicated to marketing our product across a variety of distribution channels. I'm here today to talk a little about schools, but I think my success with working with schools is because it was kind of a ancillary thing we could easily step into because we already sell to local area grocery stores and our statewide cooperative, which we were very already well versed in a wholesale situation. So carrying third-party audits, passing good agricultural practice GAP manual standards. We own our own trucks. We understand invoicing. We understand how to meet the end user needs of a grocery store. So the schools was kind of the same type of transaction, just it was getting the apples out on the lunch line versus out on the retail floor. So in terms of fully integrated, I'm almost there. We grow, we pack, we sell. We also have a 5,000 square foot market barn, which is where I'm at. I'm upstairs in my office. Downstairs is 5,000 square feet of product that we sell out our front door that we grow. We also resell other local farmers' produce. So we're constantly seeing other local produce come in, and as well as carefully curated, crafted home goods made by our community. We host school tours, farm tours, pick your own, thousands and thousands of people every day during the season. So that's our farm. You can find more about us right there if you're curious. QuarryHillOrchards.com. We have a great website. We also have a good following over social media. I'm very active over Instagram at Quarry Hill Orchards is our handle. With that, let's get started.
Thank you so much for that terrific description, Brooke. I'm going to lead into sharing my screen and showing the promotional video that you had produced for the Great Apple Crunch. One moment.
Hi guys, welcome to Quarry Hill Orchards. My name's Farmer Ben.
My
I'm Farmer Brooke. This is baby Farmer Tucker and farm dog.
Yeah, this is Hudson.
Hudson. Thank you for joining us today. Happy Apple Crunch. We're so happy you are tuning in. And we got some really cool stuff for you to watch today, a little video to learn more about apples and how they're grown and how great they are for you. So stay tuned here.
We're going to answer some questions
Yep.
Along the way. So stay tuned.
We have all heard an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But where do all those apples come from? Every year, Ohio farmers produce about 1,110,000 apples. That's enough to fill 1,110 school buses full of apples. Apples grow on trees with leaves and can be found in orchards, backyards, and even in cities. Apples are picked in the fall, but farmers work year-round to take care of apple trees in their orchards. We get to enjoy them all year long. Not all apples are the same. An apple can be red, yellow, or green, and sweet, sour, or crisp. Different types of apples are called varieties. About 125 varieties are grown in the Great Lakes region. How many different varieties have you tried? Which do you like best? We love eating apples because they're good for us and they taste great. Apples have important vitamins, including vitamin C and B complex. They also supply fiber and minerals. All this goodness helps you stay healthy, nourished, and energized. Apples can be eaten many ways too. Biting into a whole apple is easy and delicious, but so is eating slices, especially after dipping them in peanut butter or yogurt. Apples are also cooked in oatmeal, baked in pies, and dried. When they are made into apple cider, you can even drink apples. Have you heard of Johnny Appleseed? He made growing apples popular in many places, including Ohio and other nearby states. Today, apple trees are grown in orchards by farmers and homeowners. For an apple tree to grow, a sapling is planted by a farmer during the springtime, and local bees work to pollinate the blossoms on the sapling in the early summertime. For the next 3 years, the farmer picks off most of the fruit on the sapling before it's ready to eat. This helps the tree grow strong and healthy. 3 to 4 years after the sapling was planted, the tree is finally healthy and strong enough to grow fruit for us to eat. But growing apples or any food is not always easy. Sometimes the weather is too hot, cold, rainy, or dry for saplings to grow. That is just part of nature. So how does an apple get from the orchard to your plate? Workers pick apples off the trees, clean them, bag them, and send them to a school or store. Then they are cut and served to you. When schools buy apples grown in your state, it helps kids, farmers, and communities. Kids get to eat the freshest and most nutritious food. Farmers get paid for the apples, and communities build relationships between local farmers and schools. One great way to celebrate apples grown in your state is by participating in the Great Lakes Great Apple Crunch. Apple Crunch is a fun event in which schools, clubs, teams, and organizations buy local apples and crunch into them all at the same time. It's a celebration of local farmers, nutritious foods, and National Farm to School Month. To join others for the Great Lakes Great Apple Crunch, you or your whole class can sign up online. Apple Crunch will send a guide with lots of fun ideas, recipes, and activities. Crunching into apples is fun, and everyone might have a different favorite apple, and that's okay. There is not one apple that is the best. It just depends what you like the best. So when eating apples together, make sure to respect your friends' opinions and don't say yuck to someone else's yum. Now that you know all about apples and the Great Lakes Great Apple Crunch, what are you waiting for? Sign up for Apple Crunch now at the link on your screen. Happy crunching!
Hey, Okay, welcome back. We are here now to answer some additional questions that you might have. Thank you, Tucker.
Thanks, Tuck.
Tucker's here today too, helping us pick
Working
some
hard.
big apples off the tree.
Great. That was wonderful. So we're actually going to segue into our questionnaire of the day. So yeah, thank you for letting us share that, Brooke. It was really wonderful to see just a background about your farm and just everything that goes on into educating your community about apples. So yeah, I have a few questions for you. And after I get through these questions, I'll open up the questions to any of the participants who may want to learn more just about more about your operation. Great. So first question, when did you first start selling to schools, and what were some of the initial steps that you took to sell to schools, and broadly, how does it align with your goals for an orchard?
Yeah, no problem. I will start with, so my husband and I are, we were in the corporate world for a while. So in 2013, we left our corporate jobs to come back to help the second generation, my husband's parents. And that was in 2013 when we put our stake in the ground that we're now going to be farmers at Quarry Hill. And it took me a couple of years to kind of learn the business. And as a young mom, I understood the business a little more. I just saw the schools as a good outlet for us. I had a lot of passion around, actually, I was attending a young farmers conference at the Stone Barn Center in New York, and I attended a breakout session with the National Farm to School Network. And during the session, I learned about farm to school. There was a big apple and a big tractor, and they were telling me about this farm to school concept. And I was just like, oh my gosh, of course. Like, I have to do this. This makes a lot of sense. My husband and I also had to bring in new, more efficient and profitable sales channels in order to support our salary. We were an additional burden on the farm. So I was kind of like, this can be a great direct sale. Let's move product out of this like low price point, co-aggregated, like Save a Lot Walmart account. Let's like have more relationships and meaningful transactions with the people eating our produce. So schools were a really good fit for us. So how did we do that? I leaned on the farm to school. I had this workshop, and I really just started, look, I looked at kind of where we were already doing business, so like a 60-mile radius from my farm, being aware that there's other orchards in my region and not having that gentleman's agreement of not stepping into any other territory. It's kind of a thing amongst farmers. We don't want to step on their toes if that's where that's the region, the definition of kind of local for us. Everyone can define local in different ways. Our definition of local schools was kind of what our footprint already looks like. So I just started calling the schools. Hey, I'm a farmer. Where can I talk to? Who buys your fruit? Can I stop by for 10 minutes and just learn more about where you buy your apples from? I don't know. Well, let's look in your cooler. Let's read the box. Let's find out. And I call them kind of paving the road. Like, here's a school, and like, here's the local food. Like, how do you get there? How do you start the conversations around, oh, well, we have to go through administrative review, and we got to get through these contracts. There's all these like things the schools have to handle. And then the farm has to, well, I don't wash them. I don't pack them. I don't grade them. Well, we need them this size. Okay, well, I think I can make them that size. Like, just all this back and forth. And after you have 50 of those conversations with 25 local school districts, you learn a lot. So that's kind of how I got started.
Great, thank you so much.
That was in 2015 was when we started the program.
Great. So that leads us into the next question. When selling to schools, who are you typically working with?
Sure. So the point of contact that I ask for at the school is the food service manager. They have different titles depending on how big the district is. And some districts have employees, or they're called self-managed. So there's an employee, for example, Bob Gorman at Parma City Schools in Cleveland. Parma City Schools signs his paycheck. He manages his own food service department. But he used to work for North Ridgeville, where North Ridgeville didn't have maybe the staff or the resources to do that in-house. They had to contract that out. So they would hire a third-party entity that would manage because it's like a little business inside of the school. It's like a little restaurant. It's their own business, similar to way a hospital or a university does. So you're either going to talk to a third-party managed consultant or a in-house. Sometimes they're a dietitian, they're a nutritionalist. Sometimes they're a lunch lady. Sometimes it's a really small school. They don't have a manager. She's like, yeah, I buy the food and I serve the food and I make the food and I clean up the food. So just know kind of your audience before you knock on their door. That name could be different depending on the district. It varies.
Great, thank you for that. Have you ever had to make any adjustments on your orchard, like production, packaging, or delivery wise or volume wise, in order to meet a school need?
Have I ever had to change kind of what I'm doing at the farm to meet a school's needs in terms of volume? No, not really. What I've had to do is premeditate logistics and delivery routes in order to make the volumes work for efficiency. I can't justify hiring my truck driver and putting my truck on the road to go deliver 4 boxes, to my local schools. So my initial pitch to everybody in my region was, hey, we can all do this together, but I have to come on Tuesdays. And if you do it, then they'll do it and they'll do it and they'll do it. And then I have a full truck. I can just do a big loop and I can deliver, 60 boxes at a time. But if you need it on Wednesday and you need it on Friday and you need it on Sunday night, I can't do that. So we all have to be a team about it. And building that culture and educating the staff and the food service department about, well, I don't have to come on Monday morning because your lettuce might have to come on Monday morning, but your apples will be just fine if I come on Friday. They can sit in the cooler. They'll be fresh for 2 weeks. It's okay. So just tons of education. So I wouldn't say nothing I've had to do from a growing. I haven't had to change any infrastructure or grow trees differently or harvest trees differently. I've just had to teach my end user about that process. Because I'm not, I don't have a human resources department. I don't have an accounting department. I don't have a transportation and logistics department. You're talking to a small business and a small farm that does all of those things.
Thank you for that response. It's really educational. So on that note, what is something that you wish you had known before starting to sell to schools that you'd like to share with other producers and farm to school trainers for that matter?
What would I have liked to known before I kind of started this journey? Gosh, I don't think I've learned a lot along the way. I'm not sure I would have. That's where the learning happens, when you make mistakes. I'm a mom too, so I'm constantly it's okay to make mistakes. That's how you learn. So I don't think I wish I would have known anything. I think I've every step along my way has nurtured me, taught me, and given me opportunities for cultivating relationships. One of the food service directors that was really on board had a relationship with Allison Patrick, who was the Cuyahoga County Board of Health Farm to School Coordinator. And she introduced us. And then we wrote a grant together. And then we founded this Feed Our Future brand in Northeast Ohio, which is kind of this umbrella organization leading farm to school efforts in Northeast Ohio. And our work has grown and grown. It's being duplicated down in the Cincinnati region. So just lots of really great. If you're on this call and you are new to this space, everyone in the farm to school advocacy bucket are just good people. Like who isn't a good person to develop and cultivate and grow this movement with around bringing like fresh food to students. It's just, I wouldn't say it's one of my most profitable revenue streams, but it is one of my most passionate, and it works. So we do make, I mean, there are some other things I could be doing on the farm, but we feel really strongly about maintaining our commitment to local schools and serving in this capacity, not only as people who are still doing it, like we're still in the kitchens, we still do the transaction of it, but we're also teaching and guiding and helping others.
Great. To expound on the comment that you made about this being a venture that's really fueled by your passion, where do you see the direction of your farm going into the future?
Yeah, I guess when you're an entrepreneur and you have a family business, it's a lifestyle. It's not just a job. So it's very easy to have passion and emotion around what you do because it's farming is a lifestyle. So yeah, we're very passionate about our farm and just the opportunity it gives us. I mean, raising my children around an orchard, working alongside my husband, having my kids be a part of what we're doing is, the end of the rainbow. There's lots of, I mean, I was in the corporate hamster wheel with babysitters, and this works really well for us. So yeah, there is a lot of passion that conveys because we had a big opportunity to step into this business, and I don't know, there's such an exciting, with COVID, everything, like there's so many people leaving the cities and working remotely and talking about homesteading. It's just becoming more of this like something that's more attainable. And I think we have a unique scenario to be kind of a leader in that space and showing other families they can do this. And yeah, we're just continuing to grow, and farm to school is one of the things we do here. It's not the only thing, but it is part of, it's a continued passion that I will continue to have for sure, as my kids are still in the school system.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much for these answers. They're really insightful and really paint a great picture as to what goes on in Berlin Heights over there.
Yeah, well, I know that, are we ready to, I just want to make sure I was leaving enough time for questions and could really help you guys reach out to those producers back in your own states and maybe talk a little bit about that. What else did you have?
Yeah, no, that really nice segue into just opening it up to any questions that anyone else has right now out there in our workshop. So feel free to share them through the chat or unmute yourself.
I'm just reading the chat from Tracy. I might have missed this in the video, but do you bring school groups to on-site farms? Yes, that's one of like this like awesome closed loops around having all these different revenue streams. Why schools really worked well for us, because it was this kind of this marketing opportunity. We got our boxes. If you notice our, thanks to the USDA Value Added Producer Grant in 2015, we were able to help develop some resources to put our logo on the boxes. Okay, so that way it was really easy for the kitchen staff to go and be like, oh, I got my Corey Hill stuff. Oh, these, where is this from? It's like, oh, you just read the box. Here's the address. Look, it's on the go look up at the website. And then in the same breath, we could drop off some marketing materials, working with Feed Our Future on Meet the Farmer campaigns or Instagram posts, or hey, it goes home with the parents on the calendar. This name recognition and not free advertising, but kind of just teaching, right? Farm to school is school gardens, the cafeteria, and the classroom, right? So in the cafeteria, we want to teach them not only where the food comes from, but who grows it? How far away is it? How do apples grow? Here's Apple Crunch, like where it's this educational piece. And so, and you know, one of the ripples of that pool is these kids learning about us. Hey, mom, I got this apple. Check it out. Apple Crunch tells me to go pick apples. Like, can we go? Where should we go? Oh, we can go to Corey Hill and we can pick apples there. And hey, third grade Mrs. Vogus, can you guys schedule a tour Or Brooke, can you come in and do some taste testing? Yeah, let's taste some apples. Let's slice them up. Oh, by the way, kids, bring your class back. Bring the second grade. Bring the kindergartners. Come back. We'll give you a whole tour at the farm. So yeah, lots of ripple effects from engaging your local producers, for sure.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, and anyone, just feel free to share any questions you have for Brooke right now, or unmute yourself and share any thoughts.
Oh, come on. You guys got to have something for me. I'll tell you this, it's not all producers are created equal. I think we're a unique producer. Lots of producers are very busy producing. So don't feel discouraged if you might not put your finger right on a farm to school producer advocate when you get back to your state, or if you put out the word to the training and you don't get a big response. You got to kind of infiltrate your way into the farming community. You know, what are the producers in your region doing? Because they all know each other. We all work together, okay? But we might not all know about something just because we saw the email, okay? So networking, finding out, oh, okay, Ohio apples, that's the statewide thing, and then who leads the co-op, and who's the president of the board, and when do they host their meetings? Like, don't try to call these people during harvest. Think about like the season that you're in and your state. What producers do those look like? When are they going to be in their off season? When are they going to their conferences? Figure out what conferences they're going to and sign up to be a presenter at those conferences. So they're not just going to come knocking at your door. That'd be a piece of advice I would have, is you have to have a producer that's like either like actively seeking it, or you have to be actively putting yourself into their space, because they're pretty bogged down with just farming. It's a big job.
So one question I want to elevate that I see in the chat is, were there any resources that you would have liked to have as a resource when you were starting out looking into farm to school?
Yes, it would have been really helpful to know what schools were used to paying for apples. It's just like a wag. Okay, well, what's the status quo? What's the baseline? What's happening? What does the market look like? I mean, we kind of figured that out along the way, but that would be nice to kind of know. So what we try to do is come in at least competitive or below that, knowing that we're putting a lot fewer people between the place that hangs the fruit and the place that sells the apples. Okay, that supply chain just got wiped out. So that's more money back to the producer, but it's also competitively priced to the food service director. So that would have been nice to know. And then like through our work with Feed Our Future and Allison Patrick, we've been able to put together a fresh fruit and vegetable bid component for schools participating in that cooperative purchasing group. Okay, so if you're a school, you buy thousands and thousands of rolls of toilet paper and oil and school buses and refrigerators and chalk, or you used to buy chalk, you're probably buying Chromebooks now. There are entities that do competitive bid pricing, bid reviews and contracts to eliminate all that administrative overhead burden to the procurement people in the school district. And they already have these bids and this awarded and these contracts in place for all these other components, including milk and bread and all this, but they didn't have it for local food. And that's one of the big reasons that I think school districts get really gun shy, is because they don't want to deal with like the bid process and the administrator, all that overhead admin is really can be a deterrent for them. They don't have time for it. They don't want to make time for it. They're stuck in their ways. They just want to, oh, I order from Cisco. Oh, I order from GFS. I don't want to add another vendor. And to be honest, that's where the buck stops. There's no legislation, there's no requirement, there's no, it is the choice of the food service director if it happens. I hate to be totally honest, but that is one of the difficult things I've learned is no matter we can spend hours and passion and love and creativity and networking, and you can just run into a school that has someone in that position that doesn't share that philosophy. It's a personal choice. And we've worked with a lot of schools that haven't engaged because you can't hold their feet to the fire. So it'd be nice to develop some type of like legislation or incentive, you know, like, hey, Michigan gives, I think, contributes 10 cents towards a local food purchase. I think there'd be a lot more motivation if Ohio could do something, or who's on the call from Michigan? Because you know about that? Your state's doing great things.
We have quite a few Michigan people on the call.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What else? I was on a tangent. I think I forgot where I was.
No, you covered a lot of ground, and thank you for touching on all of those points. So one more question I want to elevate. So could you maybe share, you've alluded to it a bit, but maybe expand on other aspects or barriers of selling to schools that you wish could be removed? And then if you can also maybe touch on your negotiation process with school buyers.
Okay, Rafa, I'm on one of our harvest men just came up from Mexico. Say hi, Rafa.
Hi.
Say hi. Rafa
Hi.
just came in from Mexico. He's here
Hola.
for the season. Hi.
Hola,
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Muy bien.
Bien.
Okay, un momento.
Okay.
20 minutos.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
lo siento.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, you wanted me to talk about how I approach negotiations with school food service when it comes to price point and delivery.
Yeah.
Yeah, so working through this bid process has helped kind of helped in those negotiations because it already vets. There's a whole process. Here's the delivery, here's the delivery fee, the delivery minimum, here's how much the price is. So I haven't had to do a whole lot of that at the point of negotiation because I'm participating in this bid process. But prior to, which where other states might be, and which is where we're still actively involved in for schools that aren't participating in that bid. There's lots of people that do take advantage of that purchasing program, but there's also a lot of other schools that want to purchase direct and have those negotiated sale conversations with us. And that's not an easy thing to train about. You have to have some level of posture and confidence with already, I think, being in a wholesale capacity and really understanding the market, understanding the industry. And I would just tell these producers, don't be afraid to ask what their budget is. Hey, I'm trying to make this work. What is your budget? Okay, I want to see if I can make it work for your budget because I have, you know, costs and, you know, things as well. How can we make it a win-win? It's a win for me and it's a win for you. So I would just be very authentic, teach the producers to be very authentic with how they bring that subject up. This isn't like, none of us are out to, like, let's be honest, there's not a whole lot of profit in selling apples. Okay. So it's okay if they don't want to buy it from me. Like I can go, you know, to a different district. I'm not going to beat on someone that isn't interested or motivated or want to make it work. So you might just have to move on, and that's okay. Not everybody, you have to let them be where they are. Farm to school, not everybody is ready to talk about it. So you kind of have to be, we need all these other advocates like Haley and Carol and Jenna and all these people who are like helping build and advertise to help us, bolster us to have those conversations. So the school district is like, okay, I want to do this. Let's make it happen. Let's make it work. So you have to gauge that first. Once they're like willing and ready to implement and really talk about it, I think the negotiation will go a lot better. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Brooke.
Okay.
Mhm. Well, I'm going to give it another moment for any questions from our participant pool right now. So feel free and empowered to unmute yourself, ask any questions while we have Brooke here with us, or share any questions through the chat.
Well, thanks for all the comments, you guys. It's so nice. I'm gonna leave my email here. You guys can always reach out to me. Email me if you ever have any questions or, oh, there's Allison Patrick's on the line. Yeah, maybe Allison can leave her email too. She's a huge resource when it comes to talking about the cooperative purchasing program and how to implement a fresh fruit and vegetable bid, if that's something that would be interested to you to participate in. I know this is trying to get producers engaged, but you might have a better chance of engaging your producer if you can help them with that negotiation and the contract part.
Excellent, excellent. All right, then. Well, thank you so much, Brooke, for your time. We really enjoyed it. And again, Brooke's contact information is in the chat, so feel free to reach out to her with any questions, but we're going to move on with the day. Thank you again, Brooke. It was a pleasure having you. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks, everybody. I hope you all have a great enjoying all the spring weather we're getting in the Midwest, right? I know at the farm, everything's just like popping. We got bloom, we got bees, we got rain, we got growth. So crop looks really good. If you are in Ohio or you visit Ohio this summer, you go to Cedar Point, please stop by and see us. And thank you so much for letting me join today. And good luck to all of you implementing farm to school in your state. Gosh, those kids, you got a short window of time to educate them and then they just check out. So get on it.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, then. Well, we're going to take a quick break.
So hi again. I'm Anna Mullen. I am Communications Director at National Farm to School Network. And with me is...
I'm Daniel. I'm an outreach specialist over at NCAT, and you're getting a tag team today.
Yeah. So we are here to talk to you about the planning and promotion of your local producer trainings with a guide that we created just for that purpose. So for some context setting, at the end of yesterday's session, you started brainstorming your dream training. And today we're going to offer you a structure that you can use to turn that brainstorm into event planning and outreach. So the planning, logistics, outreach, all the little details that no one's going to notice when your planning goes right.
So Anna and I have roughly an hour with you this afternoon, and the bulk of that time will be for you to be in your breakout groups, doing more work with yourselves, setting up this local producer training. But we also want to make sure that this guide is helpful to you as you move forward with your local trainings.
So we're going to get started by introducing you to this guide that we created and to give you some background about how it came to be. So if you haven't yet, please pull out your planning and outreach guide that should look something like this. We did slightly update the cover for the website version, so they look a little different, but it's all the same content on the inside. And you can look at that hard copy version, and then Daniel's also going to drop a link to that website version in the chat box because it's meant to be a pretty interactive document. So the intention of this tool is to provide you both with a checklist for how to step-by-step plan your training from start to finish, and to provide you with tools and templates to make that a really easy lift for you. So I want to note that this planning and outreach guide interacts a lot with your facilitator guide. So you'll notice that the two kind of link back and forth to each other a lot, and they're intended to work together.
And we created this guide recognizing that you all are professionals and that this is not your first rodeo. So we've tried to build a guide that is more of an edge up. It's a crutch, it's a head start, it's a roadmap. It's not designed to replace you, but rather to just help you get your work done faster.
So we did work with some assumptions about the order of operations of things. These come from our own experience in communications and in event planning and education. So you'll see that in the layout of this tool.
And we also tried to integrate some constructivist education theory here, if that's your thing. We wanted to give you the setting and some tools, but not the answers. So everything in this guide should be considered fair play for adaptation.
And we recognize that there's like a bit of a mixed message here. We're telling you right now how much we believe in your skills. Yeah, in front of you, there's this guide that will literally have everything you need. So for those of you who remember the 80s and 90s, like Daniel and I, you can think of this as like the choose your own adventure book of event planning. So you'll get to choose your adventure. You'll get to choose how you plan your training with this guide.
The core of this guide is a giant checklist. We designed it to give flow to any planning process that you might be going through. And you can literally start at the beginning and work your way straight through to the end and have a very successful training.
This checklist, however, doesn't know the specifics of your local producer training. So you'll need to read through it in its entirety and make decisions and adjust to your local training and situation. So blindly following this guide will really pigeonhole you into stale and uninteresting training, and that's not something that any of us are going for.
Which takes us to another point. Please don't take anything here as gospel. You'll notice that we keep on using the word guide. And while Anna and I are experienced professionals, we're not you. And you know better than we do what's going on in your neck of the woods.
So as we've talked about throughout the past few days, one of the intentions of the overall Bringing the Farm to the School program is for you to localize your training and to make it work for your place and the producers that you want to work with in your state. So you will see a lot of opportunities in this guide for you to do just that, especially with the templates.
And this goes right back to the fact that we haven't provided you with a rule book. Take out what doesn't work to you and add what needs to be added.
So a few other things to point out. We've created an online version of this document, as we've mentioned, that is fully hyperlinked. And so in our opinion, this online version is a bit more practical than the hard copy version in front of you, in the sense that it's really meant to be an interactive document. So the purple links that you see in your guide will bounce you quickly throughout that digital version of the document. So for example, dropping you to a specific template or to a specific section. And the blue hyperlinks will send you to editable versions of the templates, things that you can customize, documents, not PowerPoints, but slides that we've made that you can turn into postcards and posters, etc. So at the bottom of lots of those templates, keep your eye out for the blue hyperlinks, and those will download the templates automatically when you click them. And then you can customize those to fit your needs. Daniel, I have a note that you were going to drop that link one more time, which I think you did. You'll also notice on that page where Daniel dropped you, we've linked a lot of those resources individually too, so you can grab them quickly. And yeah, so this is like a cheat sheet for quickly accessing all the things you may need on the fly or that you may want to share quickly with other people on your planning team. So a good link to save.
So getting to the main focus of our session, in a few more minutes, we're going to break out into our state teams once more and get into once again planning this local producer training that you're going to be working on in your state.
So once you're in your state teams, we want you to first take just a few minutes to familiarize yourself with this checklist that starts on page 3. And scan the whole thing. Read it from the beginning of the list to the end of the list, and you'll see that it's organized sort of by months, by timestamps. And then we want you to start thinking about how you can make that work as you start to plan your local producer training. So specifically, we think it might be helpful to focus on the timeline and the flow of planning. Does this match your capacity? How might you want to adapt it to fit your capacity? Start reviewing the templates that follow that checklist. Do these fit your needs, or are there different templates that you might want to create for yourself? And then start to customize these tools. What needs to be changed about the timeline or the templates? And where can you start to fill in based on your producer audience and the local producer training that you are working to create?
And if you're familiar with the term essential questions, or if you just want a little more guidance on what you could be using and using your time for in this coming session, the gist is figuring out how this guide aligns with the ways you already work, right? So don't just go and use this guide to plan your training, but think big picture about the guide. Is this helpful to you, and how do we make it more helpful?
So once you've done that bit of familiarizing work with the tool and everything that's in there to support you, we want you to work together as a state team to start coming up with answers to these 5 essential questions. And then we're going to ask you to come back and share with the full group to do some group sharing. So be sure to assign a note taker in your Jamboard, and then a report back leader who will share some high-level thoughts with the full group. So these questions are listed on the Jamboards, so you don't need to jot them down right now. You'll see them there, and you'll take a look at Jamboards 14 and 15 have these guiding questions. And I'll just quickly walk through them with you. Why are you doing this training? This is a question you probably started with at the beginning of the week. Spend a few minutes just revisiting it and clarifying that, and making sure as a group that you have some consensus around it. Who is or should be on your planning team? Another question that we know you started the beginning of the week with. Is there any additions or edits that you would make to that list that you made at the beginning of this week? Where and when is your training? So this is that kind of building off of that dreaming of your ideal training yesterday. Try to start pinning down like one training or an idea of a training that you feel like will give you a jumping off point for really building towards something actionable in the future. Dig into who your producer audience is. Jamboard 15 has the action planning guide, some questions that you can think about for helping you identify that. And then once you go through those questions, start thinking about what media outlets or communications channels will you use to start reaching producers and inviting them to your training.
And let's recognize too, you've been working on these questions for 3 days now. These aren't new questions. The guide is a different way of looking at these questions, so you can think about it this way. But we encourage you to go back to your Jamboards and look at the answers that you've had before. We also want to recognize that groups are in very different spaces right now. I mean, some groups are raring to go and ready to launch these trainings. Other groups are still thinking, oh my gosh, do we even have the right people to do this? Are we the right people to do this? That sort of thing. This is all okay. Wherever you are in the process is fine. No one's judging you here. And when we share back out to the group, let's also recognize that too. So if you need to spend more time on the earlier questions, go for it. If you want to be spending more time on like media outlets and producer audiences, that's wonderful too. And then just as a reminder, NCAT and NFSN are here to help you organize these trainings beyond this session that we have today, right? We're going to be around with technical assistance now and in the future.
So we have a little less than an hour, but we have like a good chunk of time here to really let you get into your state teams and start to work. And to really see how this guide can help you as you continue planning your local producer training. So a few more notes before we send you off. We want to specifically call your attention to the colorful boxes throughout those first pages of the timeline and checklist that you'll see in your planning and outreach guide. We have a whole series of questions to help you like guide through things like choosing a location and identifying media outlets and things like that. So be sure not to skip over those things in your checklist. And we also have a section to help you identify specific media outlets on page 4, as I mentioned. So keep an eye out for those. And if you're feeling really ahead of the class, as Daniel said, and you're feeling like you've got all these questions answered from the last 3 days, do start digging into the sending an outreach toolkit checklist on page 5 and start to think through those different tools and partner organizations you might ask for support and reaching out to your audience.
And that's it. So we're going to break you into your state groups now. Tracy, I think that's on you, and I appreciate you making that happen. Be sure to pick someone from your group who will be able to give a short, like 2-minute presentation of just where you all are when we get back. This is going to be self-guided. You won't have facilitators in your group this time. And if you have questions, feel free to just drop back into the main group. You can leave your breakout group individually or as a whole, come back to the main group, chat with Anna, chat with me, chat with anyone else on the team, and we can send you back there too. So you can come and go as you will. And have fun. We will see you back at, Tomas, you want to give us a full ruling on the exact time we should be back? Assuming that we've got like 10, 15 minutes worth of reporting out to do.
Yeah, let's try and reconvene at, how about 2:15 Central Time? That should give us enough time to share what we've covered in the group.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Cool. So yeah, there you go. Have fun, everybody.
Let us know what questions you have. Hi, folks. Welcome back. Hope you had some good conversation time there. We have about 15 minutes left of this portion of today's workshop. And as we sort of teed you up for, we are really interested to hear you all report back what you talked about, what ideas you're coming up with, what things you're nailing down, or what questions you still have. This is really like, as Daniel said, like a no judgment zone about what stage your team is at in that planning process. So I'm gonna randomly call out a state and would love whoever was tapped the report back person to take a minute or two to just share those high level thoughts. And we'll see if we can get through all of our states in about 15 minutes. So Ohio, would you like to go first?
Thank you. Yeah, so this is Elizabeth from Ohio. I will try to talk fast but coherently because we talked about a lot and we had such a productive time. I am just very excited to share. So one of the things we had talked about was breaking down the training into smaller, more manageable chunks that would be video recorded and presented virtually for producers to access when they have the time available. There would be a culminating experience for a networking opportunity, meet the producer opportunity, and then a panel discussion with our producers, hopefully tied into one of our local conferences. We have the Ohio Ecological Food and Farm Association that does an annual conference. I hope I did not mess up their acronym, yearly. And so that seems like it would be an ideal time to host that event because that is a very well attended one. With those videos, we would also like to do tours of the local food hubs, auction sites, things like that, different ways, canneries, different ways that their products can be aggregated and turned into usable sources for the schools and farms tours. And those would all be video recorded and available as well. Ohio, oh wait, I missed one thing. And then we also talked about including the other child nutrition programs, CACFP and SFSP into the mix to show the wide variety of purchasing power across the programs. Ohio, did I miss anything? Okay, that's Ohio.
Great. Thanks, Elizabeth, and thanks for being first. Minnesota, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hey everyone, Helen Schnoss from Minnesota Department of Ag. We're still doing a lot of processing about timing and what makes sense, but definitely are really thinking critically about regionalization within the state. I think I said yesterday, we just have a lot of variety from what's happening in the Twin Cities metro area to other parts of the state, and almost that's something that's in the Twin Cities metro like is just so far from what some of the other parts of the state are, what their reality is, that that wouldn't work. But considering maybe a piloting of some sort just to try it out somewhere. And we're still really thinking about the importance of community partners. We heard that echoed in the interview and video this morning of the farmers and food service can't do it all alone. So really thinking about how to get more partners into this as well. But then also do see interest in building supply in addition to building demand. So that's all to say we have a doodle sent out and are planning to get together at the end of May and reassess, check in with some of our other farm to school partners, and just see what makes sense. But I think one thing we've identified is aligning with like a specific school year or specific growing seasons always going to have some sort of trade-off, or you're doing it in winter, so then you can't have a pretty farm visit, so I think the opportunity in this is to have a longer term capacity building outlook and not think that it's an immediate train now for this next transactional opportunity. So yeah, we're processing, but there's lots to work with, so that's great.
Yeah, that's a good place to be. Thanks for sharing the update, Helen. How about Iowa?
Hello, everyone. My name is Carrie Seidel from Iowa Department of Education. We've had a good discussion based off the question, why are we doing this training? We feel that we've done, not a lot, but we've done training focused on schools and getting them interested and engaged, but not necessarily training for producers. So we're excited about this opportunity. We have a great planning team that's participating in this call today. So that includes Iowa State Extension, Iowa Department of Ag, Iowa Department of Education, and Food Hub representation. So we think we would just add some producers to the planning team to make sure they're involved with the process. We are thinking that we would do two types of training. One would be held at Food Hubs along with their current grower meetings that they have, so to add a piece to their trainings around farm to school. And then another may be partnering with the Iowa State Extension Market Ready program, which is an online program / hybrid program with some in-person meetings. There could be a module added for farm to school, which would reach more growers across the state, not necessarily those that are just part of a food hub. So we are trying to decide what to do first. And we think we might do the Food Hub approach first, just because they are established, have these meetings already, and see who would be interested in letting us expand upon their current meeting that they have. As far as marketing it, we would definitely utilize our partners, like the Market Ready participants, the Food Hub contacts that there is. We also have Iowa Farm to School directory. So reaching out to those contacts we have and working with our partner organizations to promote it on their social media, webpage, newsletters, future meetings that they have. And one thing we're really excited about, we have a member on our team that does podcasts. So that's something that we've learned. The growers in Iowa do listen to podcasts on a regular basis while they're working versus reading all these great resources. Podcasts are a new outlet for them, and that she has experience with that. So we're excited to explore that avenue to promote not only the training, but just farm to school in general.
That's great. I'm also a big podcast fan.
Yeah.
I love that idea. Thank you, Carrie, for sharing and for Iowa. How about Michigan? Is that you trying to talk, Lori? I think you're muted still.
Sorry about that. So I am from Michigan, Department of Agriculture Rural Development. We had a lot of good ideas here. We really talked about, why we're going to be doing this and the importance of our team building and supporting the farm to school efforts. We talked about some of the specialty people that really could be involved in this planning team. So getting our coordinator for the state, our supporting partners, you know, and then there are many other groups that are very supportive of our producers, such as our Michigan MIFs or the Michigan Farmers Market Association. We also want to make sure we get in our early childhood education group with Farm to School, and that's with both MSU as well as with the Department of Education. Bringing in the food safety, we have a lot of different areas with MSU Extension, MDARD, and MIFs and that. So we have a lot of great partners that could put this whole planning together. We talked about the conferences, you know, having a kickoff. We think it is a lot of information. So could we put that into modules? I love that idea of Iowa podcast. It just seems like the new thing, you know, and I think when people hear it, it might be something new to kick into. But MSU has something called D2L, which is Desire to Learn. And so these could be modules where they could go to on their own time instead of having just something offered once and being done, you know, that people can continuously go to, so that educational is there. And then again, offering it at conferences and looking for who would be there, our food hub producers, our farmers, dairy as well, our producers, distributors possibly, and then getting into our media, we would look into social media outlets, all of the different partners that are involved and the listservs that are involved with those. And I'm trying to think, Farm Bureau, Ag Council, our Farm to School website we have with MSU. So we have a lot of different places to put out press releases or information. Did I cover that all? Does anybody have anything from Michigan?
A great overview. Thanks, Lori. How about Wisconsin?
I can speak for our group. We're small. We just had 3 of us on today, so I think we're kind of a couple steps back, where we're still trying to think about who should be on our statewide team and how we would tackle this. And I think our rep from DACAP, April Yancer, who's on here, was thinking like a regional approach, and who from the different regions we would have be part of at the table to kind of help flesh out a training. So I think we've got some work to do with that in terms of taking a look around the state and who else we want to pull into this and bring to the table. So that's kind of where the bulk of our conversation was. And then we talked a little bit also about what we're hearing from our producers in terms of what the barriers are that they feel in selling to schools, if it's GAP certification or food safety generally, or other considerations. So we were talking about that a little bit in our experiences there. I can also see, though, my organization specifically using this training to do a training specifically for one school district who's looking to build their pipeline. And so we were talking a little bit about that too, and the kind of farms that would be the most logical to pull into that training, who are ready for that step into selling to institutions, and kind of how we would take the modules, how we would break up the training. So we talked a little bit about if it's a 1-day or a 2-day kind of thing, and who else would be part of helping give that training. But for a large school district, it felt like this could be a really useful tool to bring in a group of farmers and just educate them about what the school needs, and even do a tour of the kitchen. And it could be a really good experience to meet that school district's needs. So, you know, if April or Maggie want to chime in with anything else, but that's kind of what we were covering today.
Great. Thanks, Anna and the Wisconsin team. How about Indiana?
Hi, this is Laura Stoltz, representing the Indiana team. So, first I want to say thank you, Iowa, for the podcast idea. That's a great idea. So like a few other states have said, we have some preliminary work on just further connecting with all of the state agencies. We have a great team represented here on our training. But we have a little bit more background work before we can really talk about logistics on providing a training. But Indiana has never pursued this level of coordinated training specifically to connect producers to schools before. So that's our big why. And just build capacity between the farmers and the school buyers and the state, and get them to realize their common value of feeding healthy local food to kids. As far as who we see on our planning team, in addition to those here on our training, are ag agencies and academic institutions and value chain coordinators from across the state, as well as regional leaders that are already engaged in the farm to school procurement process. As far as where and when to have our training, conference sessions are an option. The Indiana Small Farms Conference and the Horticulture Conference are opportunities as well. And then other grower buyer meetings that are happening. Who's our producer audience? Indiana grown members, growers engaged with Purdue Extension, value chain professionals, and existing aggregators and distributors. And then carrying out the message and getting the message out about the training, the Veggie Crops Hotline, Facts for Fancy Fruit, and the Indiana Grown Member newsletter, in addition to, of course, other social media outlets. So I think that's all for Indiana team, unless one of my team members has something to add. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Laura, and thanks, Indiana team. We're going to take just a few more minutes to finish up the rest of the states, which we just have 2 of. So Illinois, would you like to go next? Do we have anyone from Illinois?
Yeah, I'm actually not sure if there's a Illinois or Kansas. Actually, let me check.
Oh.
I don't see Illinois. Oh, nope, neither Illinois or Kansas is on right now.
Okay. Well, then I think, Laura, you wrapped us up. But thank you, everyone, for sharing. I hope that was is helpful to you all to hear those ideas to bring back to your teams, too, if anything sparked a little light bulb. As y'all continue your conversations, that's the hope there. So thank you all so much for joining Daniel and I on that deep dive into continuing your planning and outreach brainstorming.
And this is going to be quick, and then I'll take any questions that you might have. Part of hosting your producer trainer will be conducting pre and post surveys. We hope the evaluation, as all evaluations, of course, will improve our future trainings and also look at the impact of the trainings. And here you can see an overview of what we're going to be doing to work with the producers. And you'll be working with us in 2 out of 3 of those. Before the start of the training, we'll be asking you to have the producers take part in a short 10 to 15 minute survey. That would be the pre-survey. And then at the end of the training, they'll take part in a post survey, which is even shorter, about 5 to 10 minutes. And then 6 months to about a year after the training, we'll be contacting them directly online for a really short 5-minute survey. And you won't have to do any work for that one. You can switch it. So to go through the pre-training survey, you will see in the introduction slide deck 2 slides, slide 3 and 4. They provide instructions for conducting the pre-survey at the beginning of your local producer training. There's a screenshot here from that. We've included specific instructions in the protocol for either a virtual training or an in-person training. In-person's a little bit more, has a little bit more paperwork and things to do because it's paper-based versus online. But the protocol goes through step-by-step how to go through each step. In regard to the pre-survey, if you're in person, the survey packet that you'll be sharing with your producers includes an informed consent form, which has, it's titled OMB burden statement. Everything's had to go through OMB because RMA, USDA RMA is a partner. Producers will also have 1 copy of the informed consent for their own, and they should be encouraged to keep that so they have a place to go to if they have questions. If you're virtual, the informed consent will be the first page that they will see when they enter the survey. You can see the survey link there on this slide. Before you begin the pre-survey, you will instruct producers to read the informed consent form, and if they agree, to check the box for consent, and then they can move on. There's, again, the protocol goes through all the things you might say at the beginning of the survey, but some of the things we want to make sure to point out is that you remind producers that their participation in the evaluation is voluntary and they have the right to withdraw at any time. And they don't have to respond to any survey question they don't want to. For in-person surveys, when the producers are finished with their consent forms, what they'll do in their survey, they'll fold those in half, keeping them together, and return them to you. If you're hosting it virtually, once they'll just submit all of that through SurveyMonkey. Thank you, Lacey, for letting them know where the evaluation protocol can be found. The next slide, please. And in the post-survey, the post-survey slide is found in the conclusion slide deck, slide number 12. A screenshot is shown here. At this point, you can remind the producers that they already completed their pre-survey, and it's now time to complete the short post-survey. Again, a reminder about the purpose of the surveys: to improve future trainings and to look at the impact of the trainings. The directions for the post-survey are really the same as for the pre-survey. Their participation is voluntary. They don't have to fill out any questions they don't want to, and they have the right to not take the survey or withdraw at any time. Again, if it's virtual, you'll have a link to that virtual site, and they'll be able to submit the survey just through SurveyMonkey. If it's in person, it will be paper again, and they'll fold up their surveys and return them to you. And the protocol goes through all the steps of how you get the survey packets and how you'll return them to us. If you get a chance at that point, it's a good time to remind the farmers or producers that they will be getting a very short survey in about 6 months to 1 year. Whether they remember that or not, I'm not sure, but it's a good time to remind them of that at that point. And the OMB consent form covers this. If they fill out the 3 surveys, they're entered into a incentive of $25. We'll be giving that out to quite a few producers. And that's really just the kind of broad strokes of the part of the producer training evaluation. And so if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to cover them here. Quiet.
Lydia, I know one question that came up previously was just around how much access the trainers would have to any of this information and data. Could you cover that a little bit?
Thanks, Lacey. I think it depends on when you do your producer training and how much lead time we have for getting data back to you. I think we will be able to export by, as long as they are able to put in, as long as they put in the site for their, on their form when they check in, the site where they're going, and their farm name and state. I think we'll be able to do some filtering and get like basic reports back to trainers. We could also provide the actual data that has been de-identified for those who like to manipulate data on Excel. Nothing like a good evaluation presentation to quiet everybody.
I have a question, just because I've been helping facilitate the Minnesota team, and they and I've heard this from a few other teams about just adapting the training materials and picking and choosing different pieces from the training materials that we've developed. And I'm just it's made me think about this survey, and if I know it can't really be adapted, but just wondering if they're having several producer trainings instead of one training, how they might be able to still get some evaluation data, but not have to keep repeating the survey every time they have multiple trainings.
If it's different producers doing the trainings, they should be taking part in the evaluation, right?
I'm thinking,
sorry.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, so talking about doing, breaking out the modules and doing them, some producers might be a repeat, some would be, some might be new, but
Yeah, I don't think that we thought of that contingency, Tammy. So we're definitely going to need to discuss that as that comes up, because I'm not so sure that that was brought up as that that modules would be pulled out and just do like a short piece of the producer training. So we'll have to discuss that for sure. I don't think I have like an answer for you at this very minute, because the survey does cover all the areas in which the producer training is set up to cover. So I think we'd have to make some adjustments. I'm not sure what they would be yet.
Lydia, could you just talk briefly about the information that is captured in the surveys and kind of how that, how the information is captured and kind of what kind of outcomes the survey is looking at?
So the pre-survey captures some of the demographics of each farm, of course, so that we can look at impacts by a farm. But the pre and the post surveys from the trainings look at, the pre looks at participation in farm to school, what the farmer is doing now, and how much knowledge they feel they have about certain farm to school topics. The post survey from the training deals mainly with how do they feel about their knowledge in terms of farm to school now that they've been through the training. And then 6 months to a year, what it looks at is more, it doesn't look at knowledge again, because we're not going to look at that 6 months to a year, but what we would look at is, have they made any changes in their farm to school operations? Have they expanded at all? Do they have plans to expand? So looking at that, the post survey looks at the impact of knowledge from the producer trainings, and the survey given 6 months to a year later looks at the impact on their farm business and farm to school. And I hope that's pretty. Okay, great. And the pre-survey is a little bit longer because we have to capture both of those things. And I think that the protocol also includes all of the surveys in there. So if you have any questions about the survey or have any questions of us in terms of the evaluation team and need any help, our contacts are on there and we're happy to help with anything. Yeah. Last presenter of the 4 days.
Well, thank you so much, Lydia. As Lydia said, she's available for questions as they come up. I think Lydia said this, but just want to reinforce that as you go into doing producer trainings, it's important to let us know so that then we can, especially in person, so we can get you those materials, because we will have capacity to, if you're doing in person and you need the printed surveys, we can make sure we get those to you. So, and also know when those online trainings might be happening so we can help support and plan accordingly. So thank you so much, Lydia. Again, any more questions, we will send those your way.
Great, and look for a survey about this training on early next week. And thank you so much.
Thanks, Lydia.
Thanks, Lydia.
All right. Well, and just to reemphasize, those evaluations are so important to help continue to make this better. And the same goes for the evaluation you'll be receiving about this workshop next week. This is really going to help inform and shape how we work moving forward and make it even more helpful as we move forward into the next region. So we really value your input and feedback. And those will be coming to you again first thing next week. Well, that brings us to our next breakout session. And really, like today in general, but this last kind of piece of the puzzle is all about thinking about where you go from here. And, that it was amazing to hear all the brainstorming and all the great ideas that you had in your last breakout session. And now's the time to kind of think about, okay, what does that look like in action? And where do we go when we leave the space that we've had this dedicated time together? So we're really going to come back to this idea around action planning. And you've got a couple of different tools and ways you can approach this, and your facilitator will be back with you and make sure you know where these tools are and how to use them and think through where you want to go with this next conversation. But as a reminder, we do have this trainer action plan approach that you have a hard copy in your folder if you haven't been referencing back to that. And then in the Jamboard, you've got those trainer action plan components that include that analysis, kind of your check boxes, and then your action steps, where you have the opportunity to outline your action steps, who's responsible, and then what supports that you need to move that forward. So I know that folks haven't gotten through all those, and now's an opportunity to go back and kind of think through some of those pieces, if that's what feels like it's going to be the most helpful for getting your team moving forward. The other maybe helpful place to be looking for your team is on Jamboard 17, which is really about kind of prioritizing those action steps. So it's got kind of time frame laid out, immediate action steps in the next 1 to 2 months, what needs to happen in the next 2 to 6 months, what's going to happen in 6+ months. And these can be adjusted based on when you are planning your trainings. So most immediate might be 6 months if your training's not going to be for another year out. So again, kind of customize, think about what your timeline is, but this is a space for you to think about what are those immediate next step action steps, who's going to be responsible, and then really important too is what are the resources and supports you need? And that could include in your state, who do you need to connect with to find resources and support in your state, but that can also be how can NFSN and NCAT continue to support you? So we are again kind of here for TA and technical assistance as you go into these trainings, and we want to know how we can best support you. So please make sure to document those there. We will have some time to share back when we come back as a group, and would love to hear back from you just to keep this at the top of your mind to have some report back about what are your immediate next action steps and the resources and supports you need. So we'll come back together as a group to share all of that back out. I think we can probably plan by coming back at 4 and play it by ear a little bit. Some teams may take all that time, some teams may not need all that time. So we'll just kind of plan for 4 o'clock, but we'll be in communication, and your facilitators will be in communication about timeline as well. So facilitators, is there anything else we want to make sure the teams are aware of before we break? All right, well, Tracy, if you will take us away.
So what would you like us to report out?
Yeah, just reporting on, what sort of your next steps are, big picture, or any specifics that you and your team have worked out.
Okay, well, we are planning to regroup again in June. So just take some time to go through all the materials again. And then from there, we're going to plan a couple trainings starting in November. So meeting in June to regroup and just get a fresh start, and then continuing to meet every 4 weeks until we hold our first training, hopefully in November.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, we can hear from Minnesota.
Sure, yeah. Hey, everyone. We had some possible ahas in this last session. We're thinking about how we could do at least a pilot of these resources in a way that aligns with our reimbursement grant, and looking to like the fall when we have currently funded schools who maybe had a farmer fall through or hadn't fully identified where they were sourcing, so they have active incentive money they need to use, or when the and at the same time, hopefully state budget being decided right now, we'll have a new funding period opening up, and essentially empowering farmers to be ready to partner with schools on those applications and know the lingo and know what to expect. For next steps, we're meeting at the end of May, and a lot of folks are gonna kind of look through the slide deck you've all created and see what do we want to keep, what local things do we need to add, and just kind of use that as a starting point. And I'll do some more thinking about our timeline in a bigger picture way. And then we also were thinking we want to bring in our state nutrition SNA, our state SNA, to really make sure they know where we're going with this, and that how we tailor it to Minnesota is responding to things they're hearing from their membership that they wish farmers knew. So really kind of doing that myth busting to create wins on all sides. So that's where we're at. So if any other states are thinking about like producer alignment with like reimbursement grants, it'd be great to talk more about that approach.
Wonderful. Thank you, Minnesota. All right, next, I'd like to hear from Michigan.
This is Lori. I can just tell you, we got together and we really decided on where our next steps were going to be. And we actually put together a list and actually set a date in May where we will come together again. So yeah, the big part of was getting our list together on who should be on this to really start to talk about where we go and organize how we want to get this out to our producers. So I think that was really, anybody else, anything? I think that was the gist of our whole thing.
Yeah, just to share kind of our process as we realized about who else we wanted at the table. And we realized that we had gone kind of far enough, which is a good feeling at the end of a training is, all right, we've done what we can. And now, we want to wait and bring on a few other folks so that we have a really cohesive plan moving forward that takes into account some of the sectors that aren't at the table right now today.
Great. Thank you so much. Next, we can hear from Indiana.
Hi, yes, our Indiana team, we had a few people drop out in this last session to take care of families, but basically nailed down some meeting times that some of us were going to have with some partners who were able to make the training, to make some final decisions about when we might first present some of this information. It's looking like it will generally be tacked on within conferences or at already scheduled events that Farm to School or our Indiana Grown, so the marketing arm of our Department of Ag, already has planned. So that's kind of where we're at, just getting some answers outside of the little group that was here before we can really finalize next steps.
Thank you. And lastly, I'd like to hear from Ohio.
Hi, everyone. So I will kind of break this up in our 1 to 2, 2 to 6, and 6+ months. So in the next 1 to 2 months, we're going to compile a list of Ohio food hubs. We noticed that on the USDA site, there's quite a few missing. So we think we could update that. And then our state agencies, ODE, Ohio Department of Education, Ohio Department of Agriculture, were awarded a USDA Farm to School grant, and within that, we planned to actually do a producer training. So we have in the next few months, we'll be hiring a student intern to go through what the needs are, do a producer needs assessment, and then we also have in Ohio, we have the Ohio Ecological Food and Farming Association that holds a conference in February. So over the next couple months, we're going to connect with the folks who organize that and see if we could possibly fit in some producer trainings into a conference that producers are already familiar with. And that's in February. So we feel like it would be a good time, at least for those producing fruits and vegetables to attend. And then, oh gosh, we have a lot of ideas, but I think that's basically the gist over the next 6+ months.
Great. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you all. As we conclude our training, some of the next steps to keep aware of are the completion of the workshop evaluation, which will be arriving in your email sometime in the coming week. Secondly, just so you know that moving forward, we're here to support you. So feel free to connect with NFSN, NCAT. You can reach me at tomas@farmtoschool.org, or you can reach out to Tammy Howard at tammyh@ncat.org. And lastly, stay tuned for additional materials which will be released this summer to support your future producer trainings. We would like to just thank our partners at the USDA's Office of Community Food Systems, our many guest speakers that we had throughout this week, our teammates at New York University, National Center for Appropriate Technology, and of course the NFSN National Farm to School Network team. But most importantly, we'd like to thank you for spending all of this time with us over this last week. And we value and see all the hard work that you put in. So please have a great rest of your day. We wish you all good luck in the Midwest for bringing farm to school.